Hi everyone, it's Sue Plumb here to share another scrapbook process video with you. Today's layout that I am sharing was created for, well, it's actually a double banger today. It was created for Scraptember, which is a month-long series of prompts that is hosted by Laura Alberts and my Aussie friends, the Scrappy Sisters. And this month they've actually combined with Christy from Christy's Beautiful Life to play along with 30 days of sketches as well. So for this video, I am actually using a sketch for my layout, and I am using today's Scraptember prompt, which is 6x6 paper pads. Now, I didn't have a lot of recent 6x6 size paper pads in my stash because these days you find that a lot of companies tend to put out a 6x8 size instead. So I had to dig a little bit back in my stash to find a 6x6, and I actually pulled out the Bohemian Dream 6x6 pad that you can see there from Cocoa Vanilla Studio, and decided that I might as well combine all of this with a good bit of stash busting and see what I could use up from this collection. So Laura Alberts is actually a teammate of mine on the Cocoa Vanilla Studio design team, so I thought that using Cocoa Vanilla would tie into this quite well as well. So for this layout, I decided to create a mixed media layout. So I was starting with a sheet of white cardstock, and I've already gone ahead and done my background back there, but I'll just fill you in on what I did. I actually used one of my Distress Oxides, and the colour I used was Seedless Preserves. And I just did a super quick technique, which is just to swipe the Distress Oxide pad across my page. I just sort of used like a back and forth horizontal motion just to sort of define the focal area of my page. And then I went back with one of my number 4 brushes, which is a big 2-inch wide brush, and just some plain water, and just blended that ink out onto the page. And then I've set it aside to dry. And it gives you a beautiful sort of watercolor effect. You can add more water if you really want to water the colour down, or use a more subtle colour, but I was actually looking for a bit of a pop of colour from this one because obviously this collection has a lot of sort of bright, strong colours in it. I was working with pink and purple and sort of a teal colour or an aqua colour. So I had set my page aside to dry. It hadn't quite dried off enough, so I just did hit it with the heat gun at the end there. And you will see that using a heat gun when you do watercolor or anything that's quite a wet medium like this, if you tip your page up and move it around as you dry it, you will get those beautiful, well, I think they're beautiful, you may not, those hard water lines there, which sort of, form within the color. I love it. Anyway, you will see also that I've done this layout in a bit of a backwards fashion. I didn't actually do it in the same order that I would normally do these steps in, because ordinarily I would get all of my wet mediums down on the page first, and then I would go ahead and move on to the paper component of my page. My head has been all over the place lately, and I just really wasn't thinking. So I have already moved on to the paper component here, and I'm going to come back in with another medium soon. So what I did was I pulled out that 6x6 paper pad and chose a few papers that I thought would coordinate quite well. I'm actually scrapping a photo of myself, my hubby, and our kids, and oh yes, even our cat squeezed into that photo that was taken a couple of months ago, and I've just printed it in black and white so that it would go with whatever colour palette that I was using. So I got a few sheets from that 6x6 paper pad. I just used my little guillotine just to cut them into various size strips. And then I was basically following along with the sketch, which was just showing a whole heap of different layered size strips laid over the top of one another to sort of form that sort of focal area of the page. I didn't have any particular method to how I stacked these papers. It was just whatever sort of looked interesting to me. You can see in the sketch that the area of paper that was stacked was sort of quite narrow in the sketch, and I widened that out a bit. I also tried to stick with that sort of the shape of the focal area with my mixed media as well. So you can see that the watercolor sort of goes up at the top there or the larger part where that circular portion of the sketch is, and then it extends out to the left-hand side where the papers were going to go. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos, you will know that I've already told you, if you're not familiar with mixed media, one of the things that you need to realise with mixed media is when you are creating a scrapbook layout with a mixed media background, you have to remember that you are going to end up covering up quite a lot of it. So, for this, I was just intending on the colour sort of poking out around the edges from underneath the papers and just adding that extra pop of colour to the background. So I've layered up all of my pattern paper pieces there. I've also added a paper doily, a blue paper doily from my stash, just to sort of represent that round component of the sketch. And as I said, I'm then coming in with another medium. Now, normally I would not do it in this order, but as I'd already stapled the paper down onto the page, I had no choice but to come in and do it now. Ordinarily, I would add my colour to my background, then I would do any sort of stenciling with a media like this, and then I would add my paper after that. But, sometimes you just aren't thinking right. So that stencil that I'm using there is actually from the Vicky Bouton Colour Study collection, and the medium that I'm using is a coloured texture paste. It's a colour paste from Colour Blast by B. Arty, and the colour I am using there is called Deep Water, and it's like a beautiful sort of rich teal colour. And you'll see once it dries off, it tends to go really sort of shiny and the colour sort of deepens even more. It's really lovely. And all I was looking for there was just to sort of add a little bit of interest to some of those white areas of the page. And I was also looking to add something to the space between the main focal area of the page and that secondary focal area that's along the top edge of the page that you can see in the sketch. When I do things like this, I do like to add an element that sort of connects the two. I don't like the two to be too separated or look like they're sitting out on their own. So the purpose of the stenciling, as I said, was simply to tie those two sort of areas of the page together and give it a bit of continuity. So I was doing the same sort of thing with that top area of the page that I'd done down below, and I'm just using a variety of different pattern paper strips and just layering them up on the page. I didn't have any particular reason why I stacked them like this. I mean, the simple fact that I am using the same papers in that top cluster that I had used in the main cluster was enough to tie the two of them together. Now, as I said, I was trying to do a bit of stash busting with this collection. I do have quite a bit in my stash of this collection. And you can see that I've got some really tattered old sticker sheets there that I had found that didn't have very many stickers on them at all. So my goal here was to use up as many of those as I could. And you'll notice that on both of those sheets, there are a number of label stickers left. And I thought they would be perfect given their rectangular shape to tie in with those paper strips that I had going on the page. So I was simply pulling them off the sticker sheet and just tucking them in wherever I thought they would add a little bit of extra interest to my design. You can see that I've added one in the top cluster there. I've added a couple around where my photo was going to sit. There was a larger label there as well that I also cut in half, and I've sort of tucked half down under the sort of right edge of the photo, and then another piece up in the top left of where all my paper layers were. This is a great way when you're doing a design like this of using up all those extra stickers, because you can just add them into your layers and they just add extra depth to your page. Now, one of the stickers that I actually used was actually a circular sticker, and you can see that I tucked part of it under that top cluster at the top there, and then I've just tucked the other half of it in amongst the cluster on my main area of my page. Now, I was still looking at these sticker sheets and thinking, what else can I use up from here? I found that square sticker that sort of said Happy Days, and I thought that would sit quite nicely on that top cluster. There's also a little flag there that had a butterfly printed on it. The colours were perfect, so I just whacked that on there as well. Now, in my layers underneath my photo, to add a bit of texture, I've added some frayed gauze to my stack. I've also added some scrap cardboard to the back of my photo and used a liquid adhesive to stick it down on top. And just adding that bit of cardboard to the back of your photo just helps to pop it up from your background, which is particularly helpful when you've got, you know, a lot of things going on or a busy background like this. So for the title of my page, you can see I'm actually sticking down some little handmade embellishments there. They're from Charms Creation, and they are a little X and a little O, so a little kiss and a little hug. And I was actually intending on using those as my page title, just for something different. I decided to step away from using, you know, traditional alphas or perhaps, you know, die-cut title words or anything like that. And I thought that the X and the O would make a really nice, different title for this page. So I clustered the two of them together. Now, you will need a good, strong liquid adhesive if you are dealing with embellishments like this. I tend to use Helmer 450. That's my preferred adhesive for sticking down, you know, sort of bulky or any other embellishments that require great strength. So I've layered the X and the O at the bottom left corner of my photo, and over the top I've actually layered a flare button that I had left over in this collection. And now I'm going in, you can see I had that sort of tattered chipboard sheet there it's got a few pieces of chipboard left on it. It didn't have a huge amount of chipboard, and I wanted to bust as much of that as I could. Now, lucky for me, there were actually 3 floral pieces left on this chipboard sheet. So I thought I would use those 3 floral pieces just to create my visual triangle. So I've tucked one in along the top edge there, just peeking out from underneath those layers. I've tucked a piece on the right-hand side of my photo, and then I've tucked one coming out from below the bottom edge of my photo. And as I said, that's forming my visual triangle. If I drew a line between those 3 sort of points, they would form the triangle around the main area of interest on my page, which of course is my photo. This also tied in really well with where the heart embellishments were placed in the sketch, which I didn't even really pay attention to tell you the truth, until I'd whacked them down and went, oh, phew, I put them in the right place. I'm not very good at following sketches, if you don't know that already. I tend to start off with really good intentions, and then once I'm creating, my page tends to take a life of its own, and I go rogue and just do my own thing. Please tell me I'm not the only one bad at following sketches. For my embellishments, I continued on. I actually had a whole stack of the die-cut ephemera left from this collection, so I just tipped it out into a bowl. Now, there is not one complete set of ephemera left there. It was the odds and sods left from several packs, which I just combined into one bag, so I had to tip them in my bowl and sort through them. I think there's also a few pieces left from some cut apart papers and stuff there as well. So anyway, I was having a dig through. So I found some extra floral pieces. I found some leaves. I also found some butterflies. One of the little butterflies that I had put on the page there, I actually fussy cut from a sticker from the sticker sheet, because you know I was determined to use that sucker up. And happily, I actually did use that up. And there was only just a few phrase stickers left on that sticker sheet, which I transferred over onto the other one that I had left, and I was actually able to put one in the bin. Hooray, go me. It's a big achievement when you finish off a sticker sheet, isn't it? So with these embellishments, like I said, I just added to where those clusters were around the page. One of the other things I had left, you can see here, was actually some enamel shapes. It had some dots on there, but it also had some enamel hearts. So I was just scattering a few of those around the page. You can see that I've actually stuck one of the die-cut butterflies onto my photo. That's because there was a pair of door handles behind us that was really annoying me, so I whacked the butterfly over the top to cover that up. So that was about it for this page. I really enjoyed playing along with this today, and I hope you enjoy popping around and seeing all the other videos. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.